Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen. Cannonball!
For the last 17 years, Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy has delivered laughs on laughs on laughs. Its ridiculous plot, impeccable cast, and hilarious quotes have kept people coming back 17 years later. But what is it about this movie? How did it come to be? What makes it memorable? And most importantly, why is it one of the funniest movies I've ever seen? Today on the 100 Movie Marathon, I'm going to be taking a closer look at number 87, Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy. Damn, those things are tricky. Anchorman was released on July 9, 2004, but had been in development long before then. Star Will Ferrell and director Adam McKay started workshopping the idea of an over-the-top Anchorman-centered movie after Ferrell had seen a clip from a 1970s broadcast. Believe it or not, it was just the tone of voice that Anchorman used in the clip that got the ball rolling for Ferrell creatively. Originally, the film was even more over the top than we know it to be today. It was going to be a parody of disaster films and would have centered around the Anchorman crashing a plane and trying to get back to civilization, all the while being chased by, get this, orangutans armed with ninja stars. And I know what you're thinking, and I agree. We need this movie. Can you imagine that? Paul Rudd with his big ol' mustache in this movie, trying to dodge a ninja star thrown at him by an orangutan that Brick is probably holding? It's cinema gold, and we need it, but unfortunately, that's not the movie that we got here, so I digress. Instead, the filmmakers went for what inspired Ferrell, an over-the-top portrayal of sexist news anchors in the 1970s as the media landscape changed and started including female broadcasters. I'll try to be as brief as possible with the plot and not give away any spoilers in case you haven't seen it. Essentially, Ron and his co-anchors are living large. All of San Diego looks up to and glorifies them. They are seen as the beacons of truth, while also being the epitome of the phrase, "the emperor wears no clothes." All is well and good for the Anchorman until Veronica Corningstone comes to town. She shows through her own hard work to be the most capable Anchorman of all of them, and gradually starts gaining more and more power at the network. And there are loads of jokes and gags and a surprising amount of violence throughout. After maybe 50 times, I still lose it every time I see Jack Black pump Baxter. Not a super absurd or complex plot, so what is it that's made this movie stand the test of time as one of the funniest films I've ever seen? Well, I have a few reasons why, starting with Adam McKay is easily one of my favorite directors working today. He's somehow been able to shift from absurd comedies such as this to social commentary comedic-hearted films he does today. For context, let me run through his filmography. First we have this, which, wow, what a great first feature. Then we have Talladega Nights, Step Brothers, and The Other Guys. The Other Guys was still a comedic movie, but it's the first time we caught a glimpse of how McKay views the world. But more on that in another video. After The Other Guys, he gave us Anchorman 2, which admittedly isn't as good as this one, but still is filled with plenty of scenes that had me laughing, and Steve Carell and Kristen Wiig's dynamic is hilarious. But since Anchorman 2, McKay has delivered to us The Big Short, Vice, and most recently, Don't Look Up. All three being films with clear, bigger messages. I respect any creator that can jump back and forth across genres and try something different, and McKay has done just that. But what's interesting is the consistency you get with McKay despite the changing genres. All of these films can be looked at as comedies, except we don't sit here and lump The Big Short with Anchorman. So what is it that gives his films the same sort of heartbeat? McKay is a big proponent of rhythm in a movie, and you see that here with Anchorman. He intertwines the prolonged jokes and gags with the plot so seamlessly that the viewer never forgets what the film is about, but can spend 5 minutes in an insane fight scene without thinking it's out of place. It's like, let's say, jazz flute. He knows just the right amount of time to spend in a scene to keep you engaged and laughing, and incorporating little lines here and there that could really only come from one person on set who can just feel the moment rather than a group of writers sitting in a room, such as Fun fact, that was actually the, I think, set designer who McKay just kind of threw into the scene on the day. It's without a doubt that McKay added the rhythm this movie needed in order to stand the test of time. But what is a well-paced movie if not for a cast of characters that can fill the screen and add their special touch to the movie as well? Which brings me to my next point. This cast is one for the comedic ages. You of course have Will Ferrell in the title role as Ron Burgundy. I think the general rule of Hollywood is that if you helped write the script, you get to play the lead. The supporting cast of broadcasters is comprised of improv legends and frequent collaborators of the Ferrell-McKay duo, David Koechner, Paul Rudd, and Steve Carell. Koechner plays sports broadcaster who is arguably the most sexist out of all of the men, despite the fact that it's hinted that he's actually gay. Rudd is the field reporter who is honestly just kind of there to play off the other characters, but always adds to the absurdity. And Carell plays Brick Tamland, who, let's just say he's not playing with a full deck of cards. All three members of the immediate supporting cast shine throughout the film, as Ferrell and them seem to spend minutes at a time just improvising through the scene. The bloopers for films like these are always fun to watch because you get to watch hours of unused takes by comedic legends near the top of their game. The film is littered with cameos as well, from Chris Parnell, Catherine Hahn, Fred Armisen, Fred Willard, Vince Vaughn, Danny Trejo, Jack Black, Luke Wilson, Tim Robbins, Ben Stiller, and even Seth Rogen. However, the most important member of the supporting cast is Christina Applegate. You know her from TV shows such as Married with Children and Dead to Me, as well as movies such as Bad Moms and the most recent Vacation movie. She's one of those comedic actors that makes any project she's a part of better. Even when she's been involved with not-so-great films in the past, she's almost always great in them. Here she plays Veronica Corningstone, the new anchor in the newsroom who challenges everything Ron Burgundy has come to know about broadcast media, women, love, and life itself. Okay, maybe that's blowing it a bit out of proportion for this movie, but you get what I'm saying. Corningstone represents change to a life that Burgundy has no desire to leave. So Ron can either get with the times and adapt, or die on his hill of the way things have been done in the past. Applegate both holds her own alongside comedic titans and also adds a certain level of legitimacy to the film as a whole. But I would hate it if I dove into the cast without talking about Will Ferrell for a moment. Will Ferrell was born to play Ron Burgundy. Everything about how he plays this insane, narcissistic, hilarious goofball of a man is perfect. He takes a character who we should hate and makes him a protagonist the audience can actually feel sympathy for and laugh along with. And, of course, laugh at, because some of the stuff that he says in this movie are off the wall. If you're casting a comedy movie, this is as good as it gets. Alright, so this brings me to my next point, and I think I may have used this word a couple of times in this video already, so I apologize for the repetition, but I would hate it if I talked about this film without talking about... This film is obnoxiously stupid, and I love it. It honestly feels like a bunch of friends going to the set with a general idea of the plot and coming up with jokes on the fly. All of the back and forth between the characters makes you feel like you're joking around with them. Sure, the movie has the name Ron Burgundy in its title, but it's scenes where the news group is just joking around together and coming up with jokes on the fly and bouncing off of one another, where this really just feels like an ensemble movie. All members of the cast have their time to shine and get their own dumb joke that people will be quoting 20 years later. It also feels like there were next to no restrictions in what everyone could say or do. This setting in the time period allows the audience to not necessarily laugh at the jokes themselves, but to laugh at the absurdity of the thought process of these characters and just how they view the world around them. And also just the idea of these news anchors being treated like they're major celebrities, every single person tuning into every broadcast, baby's first words being Ron Burgundy, is so stupid that it works. I watched this movie religiously growing up. I had this little DVD player in my room that I would use to watch the same 10 movies over and over and over, but with how frequently I watched this, it really molded my humor into what it is today. It's also fun looking back on this and seeing where everyone involved has gone since. You have Will Ferrell, international comedic superstar, Adam McKay, who's won an Oscar, This was before Steve Carell was on The Office and became the Oscar-nominated actor he is today. Paul Rudd is freaking Ant-Man. It just shows that whenever good talent comes together, they can make one another better, and in this case, make a movie that keeps people laughing for decades. Anchorman was a very influential movie for me whenever I was younger and before I branched out to watch different types of comedies. But to this day, it still makes me laugh and keeps me coming back at least once a year. It's the kind of movie that you can watch with a friend, group, or even by yourself and still get a kick out of. It's absurd madness at its height, but it's only the beginning of what these filmmakers would go on to do. If you haven't seen it, I recommend that you watch it after a long day. I promise you will find something that makes you laugh even if you're not a fan of dumb comedy, Will Ferrell, whatever. Give it a chance. I'd be surprised if you didn't find something here that's for you. I know for me, I'm halfway tempted to just rewatch it right now after making this video. So, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go spend some time with some old friends. Thank you so much for watching and stay tuned for number 86. Bye guys.